Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to take a few moments today to recognize the 75th anniversary of National Speed Sport News and the man whose commitment to auto racing, journalism, and broadcasting has not only kept this publication alive and thriving throughout all these years, but has kept racing fans glued to their seats during some of the biggest moments in motorsports history. Chris Economaki. Born on October 15, 1920 in Brooklyn, New York, Chris was the son of a very successful businessman whose family lived the good life until the unfortunate crash of 1929 when they lost everything and were forced to move into his grandparents' home in New Jersey. As a kid, he could hear the roar of race car engines from a nearby track, and he often found himself sneaking in under the fence to watch the races. At the age of 14, Chris started selling copies of National Speed Sport News on weekends to fans during races, and he wrote a regular column while he was still in high school. But he quickly noticed that the success of his paper depended largely on the events of the announcer. So he started announcing at races and found that he had a real talent for that. Suddenly, Chris began getting requests to announce from all over and to deliver the commentary at the races. He became one of the most competent and respected announcers in the history of motorsports. Chris was later made editor and publisher of the paper he sold and wrote for as a kid. On July 4th, 1961, Chris did his first live telecast on ABC's Wide World of Sports for the Firecracker 250 at the new Daytona International Speedway. Since then, he has announced for CBS, ESPN, and the Indianapolis 500, to name just a few. In 1993, Chris Economaki was inducted into the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. In 1994, he was inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America. He received both NASCAR Awards of Excellence and the NASCAR Lifetime Achievement Award, and he has come to be known as the Dean of American Motorsports. Truly, Chris is one of the most influential journalists in the history of motorsports and is the greatest ambassador for motorsports that has ever lived. His level of institutional knowledge is unparalleled. Not only is Chris most knowledgeable, but he imparts or he articulates his vast knowledge better than anyone else in the business ever has. And he does it with integrity, he does it with kindness, he does it with poise, he does it with aplomb, is a word that he's often used to describe people with a lot of class, and he has it. In Florida, we recognize the day of the Daytona 500 every single year as Chris Economaki Day since the governor first declared it in 2005. As a stock car racing fan and a participant, it's a great privilege to stand here and offer this salute to Chris Economaki, a man so many admire and who has done so much for a sport that has pushed the envelope in the advancement of automotive technology, brought families and friends together on weekends, and kept the American competitive spirit alive for decades. Chris Economaki. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.